Yep.
She just, and I just want to
Okay,
tell
we're
her
fine.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Arlie.
No problem.
And as I promised in the last meeting, I would try to move to the place where we would have these meetings videoed so that we could present them to the membership on YouTube. That's what we're testing today. Zoom does not feel like the right option for me because it's very difficult if you have 50 people trying to watch you and raise their hand and talk and do all that. So I'm going to try this. So bear with me, and we're going to do this also because there's to be a discussion on several topics that I think are very interested in right now, and we'll make sure everybody gets to see this if possible. And we hope it turns out well. Okay? So the meeting is going to be recorded. I'd like to establish a quorum in the board, and I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for being here today and your patience. And I usually restate the COVID protocols, but they're limited. Good or bad, they're limited, so we'll just move on. Before we do anything, I would like to make a motion that we appoint Janet Smith as our second VP. As you all know, unfortunately, this is something we have to do. We've lost the one that you all elected, but I would like you to support that appointment if you would. Do I hear a second to that motion? Anybody have any discussion on it? Janet, do you have anything you'd like to say? I hesitate to say that.
No.
I quit it not in here.
Oh, I can't say that?
No. But I did bring the form for her to sign so she wouldn't change her mind. Do it quick.
Do it quick.
Janet, all in,
Thank you, Janet.
all in favor on the board, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Thank you. Today, would you like to cover the minutes from the last meeting, or if there's anything, I think they've been posted, if there's any questions on them? Does anybody have any questions?
They've been posted for the past month up on the billboard.
I would like, okay, do I hear a motion, do we accept the minutes from the March 5th meeting today?
I motion we accept the minutes from the March 5th meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Great, thank you. I think probably one of the things we need to try to move to, Shay, is once we get them finalized like we do when we go to post them, maybe we can put them on Sign Up Genius or also Mud Times. Because with more and more people leaving for the summer, I think that's the only way they're gonna see what's going on. Would
Okay,
you mind doing that?
Yeah, no, as long as somebody can show me how to do Sign Up Genius, or I can just forward them to Bud Times.
Well, if you forward them to Shauna, she'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really easy. You just forward it to Shauna and say, Shauna.
Okay, okay,
So-
that's fine, thank you.
Poor Shauna.
I know, of course. Well, she takes very good care of me, I will tell you that. And as you know, it seems like things change in a minute on this COVID and this last month. And the other thing that happened when we did that was that we actually got to open up ourselves to a general meeting and a picnic. So that was good news. Shar, would you like to give the treasurer's report, please?
Sure. The financial statements, I couldn't complete them because I don't have bank statements, that they're not out yet. But I was able to go online and pick up a lot of it. So our Chase checking account has around 14,000 in it. Chase Bank equipment sales 39,200, and the operating savings is 22,500. We have received $600 in donations towards a memorial for
Excuse me
Candace.
for just a moment. I'm sorry, Shar. I talk loud enough, I think the mic's picking me up, but if you would use that, maybe that would be
Okay.
helpful, and we'll get it recorded. So I hope that's going to.
Is it on?
Should push the button up on the, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to repeat that then, or?
Yeah.
The-
Wait a minute.
The bank checking account,
I saw that.
What are we gonna do with that
the bank checking account has $14,000 in it. The equipment savings, 39,200, and the operating savings, 22,500. 500, did I say 39,200 is the equipment savings? We have received donations in memory of Candace Glassmeyer and in the amount of $600. We had some that came in that I haven't been able to deposit or tally up yet, that came in from her husband, and he communicated with Margie that he's bringing more donations, so I just from the notes that came with the money that I got, she is just a very, very well respected and loved person she was, and so it's just really cool to see people rallying around. The 990 Easy is finally done, and took a little bit of effort to get that figured out. We have a $200 fee that was approved earlier, and do I need additional approval for that, or was it?
No, I think if I looked at the minutes, they were approved at that time, so
Okay.
it's not a problem, thank you.
Okay,
But we do need to now move forward and establish an audit committee. And I
Yes,
did- And I didn't
yes.
put that on the agenda today, so we may.
you had some names, and so, okay, I'll get on that too. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the monitor sales form. It's not, I'm not complaining about it, the way people are filling it out, but it's very confusing, and the last one I got was probably the worst I've seen, and that had a lead monitor that oversaw them filling it out, and it was really, they didn't collect $6, which is not a huge thing, but $6 of what they sold, because the form was so confusing, and they didn't seem to realize they need to tally up. I don't know how they balanced with it. They didn't balance because they were short $6, so I kind of wondering if there's something that could be done to make it easier. I know that when I filled them out, I was not good at it either, so it's, but they're putting in like the quantities of paint or their quantities of clay rather than the totals, and it's, there's no way to balance it across that, so, anyway, I guess I don't know if I need to meet with the monitor.
That would be Janet.
Okay. I'll have to. And that's all I have. Any questions?
We do need a motion to approve the treasurer's report as it was presented.
I'll make a motion.
A second? Motion made and second, all approve, all say aye.
Aye.
Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. Okay, moving right along to the committee reports. I've got the spring picnic on first. Gretchen, we're glad to see you today. You want to give us any information on the 16th?
I don't have anything prepared, didn't think I'd be here, but I am, so hi everybody. Picnic's on, it's April 16th from 3 to 7 or whenever people leave. $15 per person, the members will be reimbursed their $15. Sharpos has agreed to do turkey wraps, a chicken club, I think, now I'm not remembering, and a veggie option. So there's 3 different sandwiches. Each sandwich has salad with it, and then get the utensils and all that. I'm gonna pick up some chips, water, and I'm gonna buy a bunch of cookies and put them in individual plastic baggies. So I'm just trying to avoid people grabbing and touching things. So, and we'll set up the station to hand out the boxes, and we'll have the list of what people chose so that we make sure people are getting what they asked for and not taking, oh, this looks better, I'm taking somebody else's lunch. And we've had that happen how many times? So, and
I did that.
we have some games planned, and I've got a whole bunch of sunglasses to decorate for sunglass decorating contest, and that's about it. We're currently having an Easter egg drawing out here, which seems to be well received. We ended up with over 50 prizes, so that's really great, plus the 30 tickets donated by the club. So that's going really well. The St. Patrick's Day went well. And that's about it, I guess, is there any other things I should be touching on?
I just wanted to know, and if I missed you and you said it, I apologize. Right now, how many people do we have signed up for the picnic?
I just looked, I didn't count we're on the second page, so
Good.
20-some per page, I think, so.
And is that two?
I think we'll hit 75, and the cutoff date, I'm hoping approximately 75 at least. The cutoff date is April 12th. I have to count into the guide for the sandwiches, so be sure. There was some misunderstanding on the dates, I guess some 15th was posted on some kind of a deal, so people weren't sure of the date. So I think we've got that straightened out now, April 16th, so I think I'll just keep blasting it out there. Oh.
Whoops.
It's gonna fall. This is not comedy hour.
What I would, hold on just a second.
What kind of table is that?
Cheap.
Yeah.
It's mine.
Oh, it
It doesn't belong to the club. I'm sorry. What I was gonna say is if we need to put a reminder in, the Mud Times will come out next Monday. So if you wanna send a note to Shauna, just kinda remind people
Her and I
about
are
the
trying to
meeting.
keep on top of the reminders, and then I've been putting it on Facebook too, so.
Okay.
And anytime you see anybody out there, just holler, just say, hey, did you sign up for the picnic? Don't be bashful.
Okay.
Get people signed up. Yeah, Norma.
Well, thanks for taking that. Thanks for taking that on, and I think the confusion on the date was initially last year when they submitted our activities for the year, we were on April 15th, but the rec center scheduled movies in the park that began last night, so they moved us, or began last night and they're next Thursday again, so they moved us off of that date and moved us to the 16th. So that's how that occurred, my apologies. I probably did not communicate that all the way through the system, so my problem. Kathleen, do you have a membership report?
Yes, I do. It was necessary to rewrite the CR15 form in the rec center, had a new format, so we had to rewrite that and resubmit it. That was done,
Do you need this thing?
and it was,
Do you need this?
Oh, don't stand too close in front of that, it'll squeal. Yeah, think it okay, sorry.
so it was necessary to rewrite the filing of the CR15 because the rec center had a new format that they want us to use moving forward. So we did that, and it was submitted on time. As of April the 1st, there's approximately 294 members. The number last year in December was 332, so I think we've done really well. The reason it's approximate is we have a lot of late people rejoining, and because of that, I have to check their rec numbers and do all that, and they've just come in the last day or two. I've been meeting with Linda from the IT committee for training on SwiftTech and the report system. It looks like it's gonna be terrific. There's still a few bugs that need to be worked out, so we're working on that. And hopefully we can get some remote access. It's difficult to come in here and work when there's monitors. And because when we're in that system, people can't check in. So we have to go in and out. But as soon as, if we do get remote access, then everything in there will be updated. And then we hope to run a report from SwiftTech so that we don't have to keep, right now Laura's keeping a separate ledger log on everything, and hopefully we can do it all through SwiftTech, print it off. And having said that, anybody that wants a current list, member list, if you'll email me or text me, I'll be sure you get it. And I can have it in electronic form, or if you want it printed, I'd be glad to print it and put it in your locker. The committee, we recommend that deleting any members that are not active as opposed to suspending. I'll tell you, because when I was meeting with Linda, a lot of members that are suspended, they still show up in the count. Like when I met with Janet, on the monitoring list, they're all still on there. Now, I went in the computer and suspended them, but what happens is when you run a report, they just come out in red. So they're still in the system. And I think at this point, a lot of members have either joined or dropped. So I don't see the need. The only thing about deleting them is we have to go in and re-enter everything if they join next year, which we're willing to do to clean up this list. I think we need a clean list. And I'll take any feedback from the board before I do that.
Is that including like the Canadians that didn't come back that will probably come
So
back
far,
next
I
year?
only have 3. And those 3 I would leave in there suspended because I know they're coming back, they've talked to me, but so far it's only 3 members.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's membership. Is there any questions about membership before I go to lockers?
But they've paid, right? So they shouldn't.
They did not pay.
Oh, I see. So
Because
they're
they're tenants and they don't have a current rec card, so they absolutely
Oh, I-
cannot pay.
Okay.
But I know that that's a situation, is we might have to make some concessions, but they are not members. But I know they are wanting to come back as soon as things open up. And they might even come back before the end of the year. So those 3 people I would just leave in there suspended, because I know they're, they want to rejoin, but they just can't.
Yep, gotcha.
Any other questions? Okay, lockers. At this point, we have 20 vacant lockers. Everyone that wants a locker has a locker. Anybody that wanted to switch lockers has switched lockers to a better location. When you see that blue painter's tape out there, what the blue painter's tape is, that means that locker is empty and available. And the reason I did that is because when people want lockers, I just simply tell them, go to anyone that has the blue painter's tape. If you'd like that locker, just let me know, pick off the tape, pay your $10. So it kind of really makes it easy. I don't have to meet them here and go through my list. As you can see, there's 2 painter's tapes right there. Having said that, if anybody wants a better locker, would like that locker, let me know and you're more than welcome to switch. I sent out 17 emails regarding items left in the locker after the member did not renew. 2 members, past members, have surrendered the lockers, and that the items in that locker will be donated to the education committee. We've only had 3 no responses, so only 3 people haven't responded out of the 17. And I'm gonna send out a second email. Today is the 10-day deadline, so I will send out on Monday a second email, and then if necessary, I'll follow up with a phone call if it's needed. And I've given them ample time. We did have a situation where one member changed her email address, so she didn't get my original email, so I'm very concerned about that. I don't wanna dispose of people's items before necessary. So, and then several members said they would renew, they just didn't get around to it. So that's why, again, why we have the approximate number. I'm waiting for a couple to give their application so I can check the rec center. Do we have any questions? Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out. I went in and suspended everyone that did not pay their dues. So when they check in, if they try to scan their card, it will say access denied in bright red. If they tell me I'm going to renew and they pay their money, as soon as I get the application, I check with the rec center to make sure that their rec dues is valid, and then we enter them in the computer, then I unsuspend them. In the meantime, if they come in, it might say access denied, and when new members join, I wait until they go through all their process, check with the rec center again. So if a new member comes in the next day after class or something, they might not be in the system. At that point, they just write it on the hard copy out there, checking in. Then I go to that list, and anybody that had to write on that sheet, I check in the system and against the list that Laura's keeping to see, are they a member, are they a visitor? That doesn't designate if they're a visitor or a member on that sheet. So then I check everyone, and then if there's a problem, I can fix it, contact that person, or do whatever I need to do. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very
Done.
much. Okay. Extruder. Does anybody else have a question? I'm sorry, did anybody in the room have a question? Sorry. On the extruder, we've had another problem in the back with somebody bending it again, but we have found out, I've been talking to Tom Waller about the extruder, and we've figured out, quite candidly, our handle's too long and probably is causing some of our problem. And some of the directions next to it that the company provided us a long time ago, we just kind of ignored. So I've asked Tom to take that extruder, shorten the handle, take down the blocking bar, and we're gonna try it and show people how to use it the proper way. And we'll make a video and put it out there for people to watch. and see how that works before we do that to the other ones. And we'll get back with you on that project. But we continue to have problems with the extruder, and it's probably our most abused piece of equipment, unfortunately. So, anyway.
And less used.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I think people are hesitant
Well,
to
maybe
use it because they're afraid they'll
Fewer
hurt it.
numbers, I guess, using, yeah.
Any other feedback on the extruder? Okay, thank you. I do have a report from Merle and Odette that are working on the spring sale. The spring sale came up as a result of us opening up again, and it came up very quickly. Merle and Odette approached me and said, can we do it? I said, you can do it if you can do it, because I said, it's gonna, and you and all your volunteers and all your sellers can do it, because I didn't think the board right now was in a position to make that happen without everybody's help and without somebody heading it up like Merle and Odette. So they sent a note out, I think it was March 23rd, and said, hey, we're thinking about doing it. What's the interest level? We got back interest level, more in sellers than volunteers at that time. But I said, we can work this out. We have enough people in our club that we can reach out to, and I think we can make this happen. And so right now, we can take up to 24 sellers. If you have not been, if you've not turned your name in to her yet, there was 18 initially, so we had 6 more openings. So if you want to be a seller, you need to send a note to Merle or sign, and I don't think Sign Up Genius is taking it now, because we tried to do one this morning that just didn't work because the date had passed when we were supposed to be signing up, but we extended that. Volunteers right now, we are getting volunteers, we're still working on it, but you guys, if you're a seller, please kind of reach out to some of your buds that you know really well and encourage them to come, not to help you, but to help the rest of the group. We've got, we know it's gonna be a smaller sale than the usual 60-some that we've had so often. We think we can man it right out here in the courtyard. We'll set it up so that they probably come in this door over here to the payment center, walk through the payment center out to the main studio, and that's where the wrappers will be with the product. That's what we're looking for right now. Does anybody have any suggestions or other comments? We do need to have the board approve whether or not we will provide a lunch for the workers and the volunteers. And I'll say from my perspective, in the past working with the pot party, I think it's an excellent idea that we give them a lunch, because they don't have access to any vendors here. Not like they do when they're up at R.H. Johnson. So we won't have any trucks sitting out here for you to go get your hot dog off of or anything. And so Merle had done some research, and I had asked her to try to stick to about a $5 range. And that would be, all sellers would get that, and so would all helpers that are here for the whole day. And Jimmy John's little sandwich with chips is $5. She got it there. Some of the other ones are as high as $9.25. So, and I would recommend the Merle that maybe she go get some cookies and put them in bags like Gretchen talked about earlier, and set out the water and call that lunch. Is that something you're all interested in, or you think that's not an expenditure the club should take on?
I think it's a great idea because I'm volunteering.
For lunch.
Do I hear a motion from somebody on the
Can I
board?
ask a question?
Yeah.
Before the sellers have always paid for their lunch and the workers got theirs free. And I really don't care, but is that a differentiation, or or the club is taking care of all of it?
Last pot party that we had in 2020, we did everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, because
Which was very nice.
Are the sellers paying a fee?
That's what I just asked.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
no,
that.
I didn't understand that was the question.
No, well, it would.
Is there still a seller's fee?
Yes, it's
Okay.
$5.
We've
But,
always paid a fee.
so basically, yes, we're paying for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion
I
that
don't
we
care.
pay for all the meals during the sale.
To not exceed
Well,
Well, it'll be exceed a little bit more, but.
Say $7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second.
So it's, to pay for lunches for everybody, not to exceed $7 total with the drink and the cookie. And, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or aye, all in favor, vote. All right, thank you. All opposed? Motion carried, thank you. And the other thing I was just gonna tell everybody is, we had asked as a part of some of the work that was done in this room last year with the video, the electronics and whatnot, there was a CR, I think it's 13, at the rec center for painting this room. And the colors mirror the colors in the room next door. When we did that, we also added the wall out here that's got some damage to it, and to repaint that for the time being. That is scheduled for April the 28th, 29th, 30th. We started out with 1 day of closure, and we got to 3 days. So anyway, the club will be closed Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, reopen on May 1st. So I just wanted you to know that. All right. Anything else on committees? Anybody else here that I've missed? You wanna say something, Norma?
I just want a quick question, I mean, not about the food, but when do we pay for the tables, the sellers? I'm assuming we're paying for the tables like we normally do.
Yeah, we do.
That was my question.
I'll have to get back with Laurel and find out. She had something else she had to do today.
Yeah, I just didn't know if I missed it somewhere along the
No,
line
I don't think so.
Okay.
I did remember to remind you of one very important point. If we don't get enough volunteers, which we've said by April the 8th, after the general meeting, if that has to be our last plea, we have to cancel it. But it is really looking good. I don't want to say absolutely gonna happen, but it's looking good, because we've got a lot of good people that have agreed to help. So I'll find out when you have to pay your money. Yes, ma'am.
Can we convince spouses?
Sure.
Okay.
As long
At the
as,
last minute,
Can we what?
get her spouse to do it.
yeah, we'll have set up time and tear down time that needs to be taken care of in addition to some of these other jobs. And we welcome spouses, but I just wanted to make sure that sellers kind of understood, we weren't out checking for volunteers for your table, we're getting volunteers for the overall, so, that's what that is. Anything else on that? Okay. BP reports, Barb, do you have anything?
Yeah, where's my cheat sheet?
Oh, wait, I got the bulletin board report here, I'm sorry.
That's really for just the board.
Okay.
I can kind of go through it if you want me to. It's up
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, now that I brought it up. I'm sorry, just it.
I've been working on the bulletin boards. We have now 3 of them, and as well as the window. And we started selling member to member this past 3 weeks, and we sold a couple items. It's not a big deal, but it's something if people want to do it that way. We have put some of the former deceased members, a couple pieces of their pottery up there, kind of for all of us to remember. I'm a real big nostalgia person. And we've provided a space in the window for the education committee for their advertising of their classes coming up. On this bulletin board by the fridge, I'd like that to be more of a personal type thing. So we're putting pictures of all new graduates up there. The education department is doing that as well. And the other one by the monitor station is, I've heard lots of people saying how handy it is to have the list of committee members, chairs, as well as the board members. The one by the entrance door, I suggest we put up what we don't need to read very much. Nobody looks at it. I could put up something dirty and nobody would even know. Hopefully we'll get another bulletin board and we can add more stuff. But the social committee has been using it, and that's great, and trying to keep it a little colorful so we have a little uplift in this club that we haven't had for a long time before January. And that's the reason for the colors. Me and Linda Hall are also in charge of the Facebook group page, and that's going well. We have about 170 members. Again, education, social, everybody can post on there. It has to be Clay and or club related. No real estate listings. I go on it daily, so I delete what isn't appropriate in my estimation. And since I'm the moderator, I have that option. You can only admit people to that page if they are Sun City West residents and Clay Club members. We established that at the very beginning. Recently, we've had quite a few that have invited their relatives to be, and that would be fine, except it's not Clay related, and that's the basic of it. So, I already mentioned the member-to-member sales. We can do that, it's not taking up much room, we're not having that much interest. We sold a couple pieces, but, other than that, if anybody has any suggestions on what we can put on the bulletin boards to keep people updated, I think that just let me know. Okay?
Thank you, Betty.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for that spot deal. And I see I missed one other committee, and that was the education committee. Michelle, did you have anything to add today?
I think the big news this week was that we got the TV hooked up to the internet, and so now we'll be able to post this meeting if we wanted to, or any other YouTube video that is educationally oriented, or wheel throwing, or texture of clay, or anything like that, is doing things like that. Talk louder, oh gosh.
Top what?
I can see them going up there.
Top what?
Anyway, the TV is hooked up, thanks to Linda's work and, figuring out what we needed, so we can post YouTube videos of educational classes, and, members can come in and cast with their phone to show a friend something they watched at home the night before. So we're hoping to use that a lot to broaden the educational experience.
Great. Thank you very much. And I will tell you that I met with them this week, and we've been talking about the second TV. We wanted to see this one up and running and how it's being used before we venture on out there, because we, as a club, have spent a good deal of money in here this year. Not that it didn't need to be spent, because it's been a number of years since we said we were gonna do all these things, but we just haven't gotten to them. So we're growing into it, and one of the things that has an opportunity to it is, honestly, the memorials we're receiving from Candace, anyway, so I think we're gonna say, let's work this TV, let's use it for a while and do some of those things, and as soon as we know what the contributions total up to, is there a project that involves in here, or is there someplace else in the club that money should be designated to? But I did have a conversation with a family close friend, and they had kind of indicated they agreed with me that education would be very much on the top of Candace's preference for where we would spend some of our issues. So that's kind of what's going into play on this, so we'll take a little bit of, we'll figure out how good we've gotten with the new router and a couple things that Barb's gonna talk about. And I skipped you, ma'am. I'm really bad on these committees. You said let me move this over here if you wanna talk for a minute. Carolyn Bitterman.
I was gonna say good one.
I can talk pretty loud. I'm gonna wait for Kathleen's new final
Yep.
membership. We have got names after names that don't have their pictures. And then I made up the first list and stuff, and then we got more people to, sign up again, so we're kind of still in a mess. But we were trying to figure out the least expensive way to do these photos. And so I'm gonna ask Arlie. She's good at this, and she has figured out a way to do it fairly inexpensively.
You can drop this on my lap.
Arlie,
Well,
you wanna
I-
step up here and talk into the mic
Well,
since you set it up?
I'm really pretty awful when it comes to, all this computer business and stuff. And so Arlie has agreed to help us with this and taking photos and what have you. Okay, well, you know what this is all about, Arlie.
All I'm gonna,
Close enough. All I signed up to do was photos, so they don't make me do that.
Well, I was gonna hold it for you, but that's okay.
The deal is that I've got a panel, and we're gonna put it up on the wall, I'm gonna cover it in canvas or something. So we have a set,
Do mud handprints.
no, you just listen. So that all of the pictures will be the same, and we'll put tape on the floor, so that when I stand there, all of them will be the same, and it's so much simpler in Photoshop if they're all exactly, and I can flip through them pretty fast, and put names on each one of them, so that when they get printed and cut out, that's, much easier, especially since now she's talking about so many more than what I had originally planned. The deal is,
Are you gonna have them hold a name up to make it
Nope.
easier for you?
I'm gonna hold a number, I have a little number.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna put the list myself of each person, so that I can read by hand.
Yeah. Well,
And I know
that's,
exactly what number goes to which person.
that's where we had a lot of trouble way back when. We could, and people couldn't remember their names.
Yeah, and that's one problem I had when I was trying to Photoshop names, and I had to go through and take all of that stuff out. So,
And that took her hours
yes.
to figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other proposition that we have is that when I did this last batch, and I did 5 or 6 photos on there, then had to take it up to Walgreens. I have a printer, but I have a color printer that doesn't have any ink. I have a black and white that I use all the time. So, it was $8 and change to be able to print that. Well, you start multiplying that by each class, getting hand building coming in, the people who get, what's the word I lost? Tested in. Then, on top of that, now if we're going to start redoing pictures all the way across, that gets really expensive. So I'm proposing that there's this Epson Echo tank. And the deal is that it has, instead of having all these little cartridges, because if we wanted to put cartridges in back here, that's gonna get real expensive real fast too. This one says it will print 1,000 full color pages, full color printers, with the ink that it has. What we're going to be using is a small part of each page, so we can get a whole lot more than 1,000 out of that. This is $200, it's $199. It's, we figured 19 and change for tax, and then they offer a $26 2-year electronics protection plan if you want that, I don't know. The problem with the printer back there, as I understand it, is that it jams frequently. And that will get to be annoying, plus it is a waste of ink and paper. So, yeah.
And also.
What about the printer we just bought out here, Arlie? It does have colored ink. I don't know what its capabilities are.
I don't know either.
Maybe we could try one.
Is it a photo printer?
No.
Okay. We
And
want
the
a
coloring-
photo printer.
You know it's not a photo printer?
Yeah, it's a cheap one.
The printer in the back, it jams when you try to run cardstock through it. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's too heavy, and trust me, it doesn't work well.
Are you gonna use photo paper?
If you're
You're gonna
using
use photo paper,
Yes.
that's expensive.
photo paper would probably go through this printer without a problem. You need to try it. If anybody needs photo paper to try it, we can do a test. We can run a test with photo paper through here. I think it would work fine with photo paper. That would be a lot more inexpensive. I can bring some in and run a test for you and see, but I'll tell you right now, no cardstock.
Well, the photo paper's heavier than
Yeah.
this.
No, but I can run a test, because I have it at home. I can run a photo
Yeah, I do
paper
too.
test.
Takes a lot of ink, photo paper.
It's still gonna be replacing a lot of
It
cartridges.
does, it does.
What's that compared to, like, per page at Walgreens, as far as if we did that for water on drink?
That's the $8 and change a page.
What
How
about
many
the
do
first
you
page?
And that's 9 pictures, isn't it?
9
Can we
pictures.
get 9 on there?
Yeah, I get 9. The other problem with that is that that's constantly getting in the car, running up there, getting it printed, bringing it back, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of hassle. I don't wanna be doing that.
Plus our,
No, I just was questioning the prices.
Arlen, we wanted to mention, it won't only be used for photos.
Right.
The education, when we did the education stuff, I was going up to UPS and doing like 12, 16 copies of each paper and stuff, and it was expensive and it took me a lot of time. Everybody who's done that, UPS isn't all that cheap anymore. So it'll be used for that too, for education,
Educational use it.
for running copies of hand building stuff and whatever, so.
Don't forget the bulletin board.
There you go.
And it'll only be specific people that will be messing with this, a copier. So to hold up.
Shay, you have questions?
No, she answered it.
Oh, okay. How about you, Cheryl?
For photo paper, I know, I have a ton of photo paper that I've not used, because every printer I bought has always come with a ton of it. And I've heard other people say it, so it might be, when you go, if you're going to print it yourself, you might put a note out asking for, because I'd gladly give mine out, you know.
Well, that's a possibility. The other possibility is I buy them at 100 sheets a pack, and it's a whole lot cheaper that way than if you were.
How much is
Yeah,
it?
we're doing.
How much is it?
Joe, I was afraid you were gonna answer that. It's been a while, I don't remember. I just know that when I compared it, it was a whole lot cheaper to buy 100 sheets in a box.
So you're showing my ignorance here. You're proposing a printer? Is this what, or the ink?
The printer,
The printer,
because this
okay.
particular printer, this is the smaller version, they have a larger one. But it comes with these, things, and they last forever. It's just liquid ink that you pour in.
Arlie, should we wait till you try the photo, or the photo paper on the printer back there that Kathleen was talking about, before we make this decision to see if that will work? Or are you saying that the ink's gonna be way too expensive?
That's the thing, the ink is gonna add up quickly.
Well, I probably don't need to weigh in on what I said what I need to say.
So, whatever you wanna do. The ink cartridges are usually 23 bucks a piece.
No, so that's
For this?
4 times the kind. It's red, black, green, blue.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you
it's
got-
$100 every time.
Every
we have
time you
to
wanna
refill.
replace the,
Which at Sam's and Costco for that, it's less to get the combo pack, the black and color.
okay, but how, you know,
Okay, so
it wouldn't take very long, I don't believe it, before we would.
I don't know if we've done anything else in color for years.
yeah.
So if we specify for the pictures, the photos, it shouldn't. I mean, I don't know, students make a colored photo of what they're gonna make.
Initially, it'll be a little bit more ink because we're gonna be doing a whole bunch of photos. But, down the road, it's only gonna be our classes
Yeah.
when we
But
get this all.
when we do hand, building packets, or when you do other stuff that goes up in the building board, if we just have a title in a color or this, that, and the other, which is not using very much coloring, it's gonna look much more professional,
I could do it on my own. I'm gonna turn a building.
so.
I think, I have a question. Aren't the pictures that are in the book right now, are they not on just regular paper?
Yes.
Most of them are, the new ones, you guys can look at the new ones
Yeah.
that Arlie has done. But most of them are on paper, and when I tried to get them out of the other photo book, oh my gosh, they had them all taped underneath, it was terrible.
Well, yeah.
But I'll look this up and bring it to you.
So we don't need to take them in anymore.
Yeah, we're in pockets, now we're putting them in pockets, which are better.
I saw that.
That's
a good idea.
Yeah, I like
Margie, I'm gonna be in on
Yours are
Monday, I
winning
can bring
names.
photo paper and run to see if you want me to. I'll be glad to do that.
I think we need to look at this just a little bit deeper before we make a final decision here, if I can, I don't know, what's the rest of the board think at this point? Are you ready to do something, or you wanna look at this and make sure we can't use what we have? Or maybe if we had a different quality of paper, that it would work using this one, I don't know. We do own 2 printers, one of them we just bought, and found out since then that with our new, router that we just bought, we can now hook from the computer out there to it, which we weren't able to before. And,
These are the ones they probably did.
oh yeah, those are very nice. Yeah.
Now, is that on paper or photo paper?
That's photo.
Photo paper. I
Photo
mean, you're gonna
paper,
get a
picture
better
basis.
detail on photo paper than you do on paper.
Yeah,
These are some of the better ones, on paper, but
Yeah.
it's still.
photo paper's about, $10 per 50 from Amazon, so.
That's not too bad.
That's not bad.
And that's,
No,
that's a good.
It's the ink that's the costly item.
Well, I know that Carolyn had stepped up and said she wanted to do this, book. She's had a lot of good ideas, and we just gotta figure out the best way for us to handle it as a club, because it is an ongoing situation. Every year we lose some, and then we get new ones or whatever, and we just gotta figure it out. But perhaps we need to try what we've got before we move ahead quickly, and then we can look at this, at the next meeting, is what I would say. Is that agreeable with you?
Yeah, cause I'm waiting, we wanna make sure we get all the lists now and stuff before we even begin, but we were also wondering how we would go about doing the photos. If we wanted to do the whole club, or if we just wanna do the ones that need them right now, but, how we go about that. Getting people to come in to have their picture taken, if we do that in the mud times, or how do we talk about that, Arlie? The mud times, or just putting a list, scheduling so people could come in and have their picture taken.
Well, and right now, a lot of our members aren't here.
Well,
So, I mean, they've just left, so we got a little bit of time. We could
Okay.
start on this and try to do the summer people here this summer and get them done and set it. But then we know that in the fall, it's gonna be busier than it is right now.
Okay, well, we'll figure that out, don't we?
All right,
Okay.
so
We're going to.
we're gonna wait, and
Research.
what we're gonna do is
I'll do it
Kathleen
Monday.
is gonna try and see what she can work out, what that really is. Also,
Try one in that printer, would you, because it's full of
I'll
color.
do it Monday.
okay, and see what we come up with.
I've done pictures forever and not had necessarily a Photoshop thing up, and they can come out okay. So,
The problem was getting it to the wallet size, that, I
Oh,
went to
that's
Office
the-
Max, I
that's
went to
the-
Walmart, no one does that, so.
that's the
I mean,
program
that
you
was-
have in your computer,
yeah,
right?
uh-huh.
Did I know that?
I'm impressed. What?
All right.
Why is it? My
Okay,
skills are
is there any other good conversation on this, because we're gonna move along? Barb, do you have anything for BP? I haven't forgotten anybody else in the room, have I? Because they probably did. Yeah, Barb, do you wanna move on with your report, please?
Okay, as far as the purchases for technology, Margie has all that information, 'cause somebody has, I said I needed a cheat sheet on the router type stuff.
Actually, Shay has it on the back of my paper.
Okay,
The
all right.
one, the memo that we went out on the road, router.
She's got it.
Yeah, she's got that information on the back.
Okay, so we have purchased, is that what we want to know? A connector, Nest Wi-Fi, and a Google.
That's a
Chromecast.
Wi-Fi router.
A Wi-Fi router, okay. And a Google Comcast. Okay,
Google what?
Comcast.
It's a piece that we put inside, put in,
Streaming
the,
at home.
we plug in the back of the TV, and that's what allows us to get to the internet, whatever.
Okay. Okay, so those have been,
Chromecast, yeah, not Comcast.
these items have already been purchased for, to get this set up going with education. Okay, and, the slab roller, I've been in constant contact with them. They are closed because of COVID still, so I have to do it through email. And when I emailed again this week, I said, look, February 5th, I placed this order. February 8th, I got a notice saying order processed, shipped. And you have been telling me now for 2 months that it hasn't been shipped. Where is it? And I also noticed, I had contacted Shar, and they debited our account because it isn't a charge card, it's a debit card. And she explained they had to do that in order to get the order processed. So where we're at now is they needed parts to put these together, and they are held up in customs. So we're looking at April to May for delivery. We can back out and get a refund and start again, but the problem I see is, and we know ourselves from our club members, because of COVID, people went out in droves and bought their own equipment. So a lot of that equipment isn't available anymore because they're held up in customs. So, I don't know what we wanna do as far as getting it. I know I was hoping we'd get it. I was told 2 weeks originally, so. And we should have, I guess, maybe sucked it up and done the extra 200 and gotten it from Marjan. But they may be in the same situation. Marjan, the reason it was cheaper, through this company is they were not gonna charge us delivery and they weren't charging taxes because apparently, they only have certain states they have to do that with. And it was on sale. Marjan's was still on sale, $100 more than this, plus they were gonna charge us delivery charge and tax in their area, which is higher than here. So it was a $200 difference. So I went with your recommendation. They're a good company. It's really not their problem, but that's where we're at, I'm sorry.
Perhaps what we might want to do at this point is investigate, first of all, whether Marjan has one in stock. And if they wouldn't put that on the truck when they send it out, or send our order out every week and delay and not charge us for the delivery, because we do have 2 people in the club that said they'd put it together, and see what our avenue is. And then before the next board meeting, you might give them a call one more time and say, where are we on this order? And then we can either decide to cancel the order next month and get one from Marjan and move forward. I will ask, I know the education committee has been really busy this year. Is it causing a problem with what we have right now? I mean, it's not a good
You
scenario,
just have to
obviously.
be really careful and make sure that you have the thickness you want, so you're just checking it by touch.
And that's difficult when you're trying to teach beginners, I understand that. But it's also a good point that they're having to learn that, don't just rely on the machine too. I'm not trying to schmooze it, but it is a pain. And I have a whole list of emails I've been trying, and it's frustrating that I can't talk to a human. I'm not a techie person, I hate doing everything like that. So that's been frustrating. I called Marjan's and I talked, and I'm a pretty good deal maker generally. And I told him, we can get it flat $788, no shipping, no tax. And he said, well, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And I said, the Clay Club's giving you a lot of, the whole round, and they were not willing to deal, but I will check again. Problem is, they may not have them either. When I first contacted this company, Arlie, you guys, I think, presented it in January, and I was supposed to look, and we voted in February. When I first contacted them, well, they supposedly had one in stock to go out, but by waiting until February to vote again, then you get lost.
Does that have any reference if somebody is an Arizona Clay member? Because when Gene and I got our kilns down there, Spice was there, we got like 20% off or something like that because we belong to.
He knows I was from the Clay Club.
No, now this is not a Clay Club discount, this is the Arizona Clay member. And Spice was a member of that, and he got more discount than the clubs did.
Carol Cummins might.
Yeah, Carol, okay. What discount
I
do you
can get a
get?
military discount there too.
What discount do you get?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
tell you
I know
what,
I can get military.
it would be
discount.
nice if we could get the Clay Club discount and the Arizona Art or whatever discount and the military discount.
I don't know if
And,
they will.
work it on down to 50% off it. Marjan's has got a pretty good business going here, and they, I don't know if they're gonna deal that much, but I will see what I can do, and I guess,
But it's worth checking and seeing how much those
absolutely.
discounts are.
yeah.
Barb, I assume, when you say the parts are tied up in customs were, that's a problem with Shimko, that's a problem with the manufacturer, not this.
No, I know, yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just.
No, I know this is a good company. I've ordered stuff from them. I think you have too, or I've never had a problem. It's the fact that, you know, well, the
but
way
again,
things are.
like you said, you might have the same problem with
Yeah.
Marjon.
And
Supply.
I guess I was a little, not disturbed, but when I talked to the guy, originally they were open. Now they're not, but, when I talked to them originally, they had one in stock. But I had to wait until we voted, and then by then, their stock is gone, because people are just
It's empty.
setting up their own home stuff, so, sorry.
Anything else on that? So, any more purchases you had to make this month?
I made some, supplies, you know, general supplies, mostly for COVID. Mr. Coffee pot, and a drill for the glaze team. And I approved, purchases for the education department, the bulletin board people, and maintenance. So, not a lot, it was kinda nice.
And for the
Thanks,
members,
Marlene, Arnie.
for the membership's benefit, we did buy board, internet vote on the router. And we did that because Linda Connell, the person that was gonna install it for us, was leaving this next Monday. So, and she had people in town, so it wasn't conducive to waiting until today, so we did that way.
Good deal.
Well, I can go to Marjan's and see, but I can't get out of Marjan's without things.
Without bags?
So, but I'll do it, I'll suck it up, do it, yeah.
Suck it up.
Boxes.
They do have a phone.
Yep,
I know, well, but see,
email
That's
too.
I
not as
schmooze
fun.
better in person. No, I did talk to him on the phone originally. I know. Because I think they were okay.
The next thing on the list, we had Janet for the monitor needs and exemptions, and I don't have to tell you, she didn't get the information from me until this morning, so I'm not sure whether she has anything to say or not.
No.
Probably not. We are
I was
working,
handed 3 medical exemptions and they're all good.
Good report.
They'll work.
well, actually, what we're doing with most of the medical exemptions, we're asking them to find something else to do in the club.
Okay.
If they can't be at the monitor station, perhaps there's a project in education, we need books put together, we need some other things done, and perhaps they can help
So I
us.
need to contact them
And see what else they'd like to do.
Okay.
Because I think, I'm a firm believer, and I think this board is, when we've discussed it earlier on, we need everybody doing something if they're a member. And, we would expect that they would, and we may not have anything for them now, but I kind of keep a list around, so if somebody says, I need to get this done, then I reach out to them and say, is this a good time to do it?
Gives them something to
Okay.
look forward to, a little job.
Elaine, don't contact Elaine.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you gonna vote on the off-site access for the club computer for Janet?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, I just see it on the agenda.
Yeah, and I also, I don't, what she's asking for is Swift Tech has a program that we can buy, and I think it's $79 total cost, where we can have really unlimited access to that computer and the programs on it from home. Because the only time they can really use Swift Tech is when it's not in use when the club's open. Now, when we say unlimited, yes, everybody can have that, but we would be very prudent about who we put on that list. It's probably the IT group, it's the Janet, and maybe Shay or Shar if they needed it for whatever reason. And then, but it's not all of us, and it's not the whole club.
No, just Laura, I,
membership.
and Janet, so far, that's what, and then any of the other board members, because Linda already has access.
Yeah, and so that is a software update kind of for the thing of it, so I thank you for reminding me. Yes, ma'am.
This is not, can I just say something about purchasing and stuff? I just saw a note on this printer here, they needed ink. I don't know how long it's been, nobody said a word, and I haven't gotten back there, so if you're running off things and you see it's slow, please give me a heads up so that I can have it here for you. I know they just thought I'd probably go in there and look all the time,
Do you want that note in your folder that said the monitor's desperate?
but you can call me, text me, probably would be, you know, probably a text would be good, because then I have it that I can check back. Yeah, cause, and if you're running out of paper or something, I try to check. I even made myself a checklist because I don't, but that I didn't even notice. Because it was on white paper, written in pencil, and, I go and check the forms, so. If you'd please just kind of give me a heads up. I
Okay,
don't have a
back to
copy.
the subject on
I'm
hand
sorry.
here, we need to, I'd like a motion that we go ahead and pay for the access to the Swift Tech from home for our people that need it. And I would say not to exceed $85, because I believe it's $79 and some change. Do I have that motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second? Okay, motion made and second to purchase the Swift Tech software so we can use it out, external access. Any other questions about that?
I just have one comment. Linda Connell said that if it did pass today, she will come in, even though she has company and leaving next week. She will come in, she'll upgrade the computer, put it in this computer if any upgrades need to happen. And then she's gonna meet with us personally as a group to get us on our laptops, make sure it's loaded, and that it works properly before she leaves town.
Great, thank you.
Who is that?
Linda Connell. All in favor of the motion to buy the external access for Swift Tech for not to exceed $85, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Thank you. I knew I'd get that right once. Sorry. Anything else before we move on? New business, just real quick, we are having a general meeting next Thursday in Beardsley Park. That would be our normal Thursday meeting, I believe. But what I didn't know, I couldn't remember what time our meetings were, so I've been holding off as whether it's a 9 o'clock meeting or a 10 o'clock meeting. It should be fairly warm next week. We're going to be in the Ramada number 7. I think it'll hold everybody we need. And one of the big topics of discussion that day will also be the monitor station for more questions, answers kind of thing. But who wants to tell me what time you want this meeting to begin?
9 a.m. They've always started at 9.
Yeah, this says 9.
Okay.
10.
You can get up earlier.
I can get here.
I know, I'm with Barb.
I'll have Marty be my wake-up call.
Okay, so are we going 9 or 10, ladies?
9.
No.
All right, we'll put that out today because I didn't know what to do, I'm sorry. We'll have a regular general meeting. We'll have an agenda, the topic, and we're going to record that meeting also, and hopefully if this didn't work very good, we'll get it better. Anything else on the general meeting? Oh, I need someone, and I don't know who in the past it was that got the donuts and the coffee. But I think when we do that, we need to think about what we would get that is prepackaged.
Little Debbie's. Ew.
Oh.
I know, it's just not a lot.
In the past, it was the
Peeps,
first
let's get Peeps, those are my
Oh,
favorite.
God.
Oh.
In the past, it was the first VP's responsibility.
I
And I
know,
would order, but you could Costco do the muffins or something prepackaged. You let the rec center know if you want coffee,
Yeah,
and
we
they set
did
up the coffee and do that for us with, and I set that up for like the whole year, but if you talk to them, they'll do that for you. And I would, from Bashes normally, I would order the donuts ahead of time, pick them up and then bring them to the club, and Janine would set up the coffee, but she dropped club, but that's what you could get.
One conversation.
So
Okay.
that's.
We'll figure it
my
out.
duty.
Barb, it sounds like it's your responsibility. I did put on the order for that day 2 coffee pots and that we would provide the coffee.
Okay,
Okay? So
What I do is give them,
we have coffee back then.
I give them a thing of coffee, and then they let me know when they run out.
And we'll
otherwise
provide
they-
the cups and the other stuff.
And then we provide everything that we have in here, we take it out, but if you don't provide the coffee, then they'll charge you for it, so, and they set up hot tea as well, they set it up very nicely.
Okay. Okay, so that's taken care of. The monitor station presentation question and answers, that's part of that meeting. We're to have, one of the next things on new business is we have voted as a board when we accepted the timeline on the monitor station the way it is, that we would run this an electronic vote the week of the 12th through the 19th. Before we move to that today though, I wanted to open this up and just make sure if there's anybody here that has any specific questions that they need answers to at this time. We have, Lee Phillips worked on the design of it and knows a lot about the detail on the construction type aspect of it. But I just want, and has maybe some information, if you have any specific question, he would answer them for us. If not, I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Yes, ma'am. Norma? Yeah.
Nobody's hand went up, so, okay. Just clarification, more than a question. So what we'll be voting on between the, 9th and 12th, or whatever it is the current proposed one, or these other ones that I've been hearing? Just the current one, which has been approved by the rec center, right? You have to do it.
Well,
I mean,
I don't think the rec center has approved anything.
no,
They're
no,
waiting
they
on
approved the
us.
CR or whatever. what was
Well,
said.
you have, the CR,
15.
15, I think it is,
Okay, I don't know.
has to be resubmitted. Once we have a vote, we as a club have to vote that we want to move ahead on a program of this, on a remodel of this size and this expense, and we'll have to put a cap on it. I think at this point, and I'm gonna say this first, and then I'm gonna share some information with you that I have, but at this point, what we're voting on, from my perspective and from the input I received from the committee, is that we're voting on the proposed monitor station as it is. The structure type, the space, the cost, the design, everything. That's what I see us doing unless for some reason this organization changes their mind, okay? But
Yeah,
that's
we
part of
just-
the reason we're having this conversation next Thursday, because hopefully we'll have more people there to provide that input. Now, having said that, I, as the president, had approached the rec center because we had a number of members that have stated they felt there was a safety issue with the where the clay is placed in the current proposal, okay? So I asked the safety person, who is Jim Hager, some very pointed questions about what is the probability of anything happening in the future. Well, we don't know what the future brings. I don't know that I'm not gonna fall off of this ladder over here. But at the same time, they did respond in a letter that said simply, it probably would be better if the clay was in the front, but it is the membership's and the club's decision, not theirs, okay? So clearly, to me, it means we can decide as a group what we want to do, okay? And then, apparently, and there was some conversation when I was asking those questions, who is in charge of safety, who's not? Does Carl Wilhelm, who is part of the design, construction person, I think, here at the rec center, does he have any input? Yeah, that kind of thing. A meeting must have occurred. I did not attend it. I don't know what they decided, but I got a call last week from Jim Riley and said, I have a new proposal for you and I have 2 new estimates. I said, pardon me?
I said, oh geez.
Because in the letter, in fairness, in the letter, and I'll be happy to show it to anybody, Jim Hager had said, if you want us to do a new design or bids, we'll do that. Well, I did not respond to the letter. But I just, because I didn't ask for that. I never asked for that. I was asking for safety issues totally. So anyway, long story short, we now have a new, very brief drawing of what it could look like if we moved the clay. And there's 2 new bids. The 2 new bids we have, one of them is it's very much, I mean, it's the same structure, it's the same space that we have had here, but this is what it would cost now. And originally what we had from them last summer was $22,500. The bid has now jumped to $25,000 for the same type of countertop. Countertop being a solid countertop that's like a Corian. Or there's a bid that says, okay, if you go with laminate, like we have every place in the whole building, it's $15,000. $10,000 difference, bottom line. The real difference between the 2 drawings is plays inside, plays outside. The front, the tile work, all that, the lat guards, whatever you want to call them. What are those called? I forget what they, knee guards, where you can sit with your,
Knee space.
knee space, thank you. That's there. There would not be the one they drew does not have an opening on this end. It would only be from the back, the other end. But, and the cabinets would be moved to the back. We could choose between cabinet doors versus drawers in a full cabinet, how many ever we wanted, that kind of thing. I feel as the president, I have to tell this to the organization, but I also think it doesn't supersede now what we have done to this point and the original design. And I'm thinking, you know, at this point, if I understand the process, we actually would be approving or disapproving that we want a monitor station that size, that price, or that price range, and that style. And then we say, if it's approved, then we say, okay, we go back to the committee and say, okay, this is where they wanna go, this is the comments we've received from the memberships, now let's finalize it. And at that point is when probably that new layout and that new bid scenario would go into the consideration. I don't think it does prior to the vote. But I'm open for conversation on that, and I'd like your input on that, because I'm not the knowing person in this scenario. I'm just trying to make this as easy for the members so they can vote whether we move ahead with this or whether we step back and recreate. Yes, ma'am.
And maybe I'm not understanding it. I was thinking that we had to vote on the original proposal, yes or no, and then submit another proposal if we were changing anything.
Right.
So am I wrong on that?
No,
That's exactly what she said.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, I didn't really say it.
But she said something about, once it was approved, that we would change the design,
We
so.
could.
We could.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
We could, and I don't think any committee would dismiss what you have to say. I think there's a full consideration here, and whether you go hard top, laminate top, that kind of thing. I think as we move along, if there looks like there needs to be a vote on something, I would certainly do that, because I believe very much this has to be a membership. Now,
Okay, so it's not just a vote on
having
that.
said that, I wouldn't wanna build a house with 50 people in the room and everybody gets to pick the colors. Because
And the
that's a
window
little bit
size.
difficult, it's probably not manageable, but, no, I see this as we need to move, this is a vote for the club to decide, do we wanna spend up to, I'm gonna say $25,000 at this point. Do we wanna spend up to $25,000 for a monitor station? Anywhere between, let's say, $15,000 and $25,000. I don't know what the verbiage is, but we need to figure it out so that we can put it on a ballot. It's simple, it's yes, no. Yes, ma'am. Michelle?
If, you didn't request this idea from Carl,
Right, I did not.
why do we have to put it out to the membership until after we voted on this current proposal? It seems like it would confuse the issue and people wouldn't know for sure what they were voting on.
Well, I gotta tell you, Michelle, that's a very good question, because for the last 2 nights, I have tried to figure out what the answer to that question is. I felt, once I got it on Tuesday, that's when I received it, was Tuesday. I needed to show it to the committee, I needed to then present it to the membership, because, you know, eventually they're gonna know that it's there. The question could be from some people, why didn't you show us that before? The question could be, why don't we wait until after? In total transparency, I felt I had to bring it to this organization, in this board meeting, and to this board and say, here, this is what we've got, I've got pictures of it, I've got the bids, and I'll be happy to share that. But I also think it really muddles the water. And so I don't know, I'm asking you, how to proceed. Lee, do you have something?
I've got quite a few things to say, actually. I'll have to kind of filter them out my mind as I go, however.
And I'm sorry about
I'm not speaking, the first thing I would say is that I'm not speaking for the committee. I'm just one member on it, and we all kind of worked as equals and would have different answers probably for you. First thing I would point out about what you'd be voting on, that proposal as it's shown on the poster in the drawing. That's a preliminary proposal. It's just designed to get us into the ballpark. We went a little further probably than just a preliminary in terms of trying to get a bid from the rec center and additional information to help make a vote a little easier. But there's a difference between a preliminary proposal and a final proposal. And it's important to know that what we have out there leaves room for things, in fact requires that certain things be pinned down, such as countertops, quality of cabinets. There's some issues with flooring, electrical, a number of things. When we met with the rec center, they felt the proposal was solid enough along where there didn't seem to be any problems that could not be resolved at a later date. But they do need to pin things down. There's also some room for a little bit of flexibility in design. There's one item that we tossed around a little bit. I haven't brought it to the full committee, but it might suggest a slight design change in size. I'm not going to go into that today because it'll just muddle the waters and make voting more complicated. But to leave the impression that it is a preliminary plan, not a final. There is some room for change and design development on it. You should know that. Secondly, as far as the committee has gone, we've gone through what I understood, what I think we all understood on the committee, was the question and answer phase. So I'm not sure why we're having more questions and answers come up, and if we need to be there to address those or what, but that's the first I've heard of that in terms of the general meeting.
Well, I will tell you, my endeavor on that, Lee, was that, we've got people in town, we've got people out of town. We had the presentation on February 5th. It resulted in some questions and answers. Those questions and answers have been asked. We still have members that say, gee, I'd really like to hear this and that firsthand. So when we had the opportunity came up that we could open up and have a general meeting, I added it to the agenda.
Okay. It's nice to run those things past the committee because I think there's a general feeling on the committee, and again, I'm only speaking as one member, that we're being left out of a number of important issues, one of which would be the next phase. What happens after the vote? How will dealing with design development, pinning down information, how will that really be handled? Is the committee going to be involved in that? We don't even know at this point. We've asked this several times. Could you give us some clarification on that?
In my estimation, the committee would continue to work on the design and kind of respond to what the membership votes on and how they've responded to it and the questions they've asked. And certainly you're much more familiar, you personally, Lee, are much more familiar with the construction and the materials. When Mr. Wilhelm talked about solid versus laminate, I clarified that with him and he says it's like Corian or it's laminate. And the difference is $10,000. That's all I know about it. I never had cordon in my home. I've had some people tell me different things about it or say they get stained, they get whatever. I do know that it's much heavier than what laminate is, but I also know that it seems like we have functioned for a long time with a lot of laminate that is a half the price.
That's what the drawings show, but they have added an edge strip, which I think a lot of the tables lack and is why the top is pinning off.
Right.
But still, solid surface helps in granite and a few other products. But let's just take phase 2 a little bit in more detail if we can. Say the vote comes back to approve the project as presented. And the committee sits down and as you're suggesting, we would go through and pin down these additional areas. What happens at that point? Is there another vote on the final plan? Or is this just a board's approval on the side of the final plan? How is that going to work? Or is our answers going to be the end?
I don't think I have all those answers. I'd be willing to have anybody else chime in here. I've never been through a remodel project like this, not with a club, so I don't know that I've seen guidelines that show me specifically what we should be doing, but I would hope that all along the way, whether it's the board with the backing of the whole membership, that we have a little bit of flexibility and we can change things if we need to, and we get do it by vote, or we can do it by the input that we receive along the way. I mean, I want it to be whatever the members want, and I will support whatever the members want, but I want it to be a member's decision. In my mind, I don't know, I don't wanna speak for the rest of the board, but I think it needs to be a membership
Well, I would think that too, yeah.
because they're the ones that are paying for it, whether we pay for it now, whether we go to the properties committee, whatever we do.
Okay.
Is that kind of finished? And Joe wants to say something, I'm sorry, Joe.
Hopefully this makes your life easier, but
Can you,
you said you had other proposals from the rec center. Do they follow the same footprint? Is the footprint
Yes.
the same?
It's the
they
footprint.
follow the same footprint that we have out here now, yes.
So then I would say that, the argument sounds like materials.
Well, it's materials and honestly, the placement of the clay.
Okay.
Whether it would be in the front, I mean, that's what their drawing is. It puts the clay in the front, so there is no lifting action for anybody, whether they should be told not to lift or not. Somebody will do it. It's kind of like, and that's my concern, what the culpability for the clay club and quite frankly, this board, because we're the ones that has a responsibility, because it will be voted on under us.
Yeah, but I was trying to think of a way we could make this an easy yes/no vote. And it sounds like part of it is, this is the footprint, at least.
It is.
Right.
So you could just be asking the club to
Basically
vote on that first.
And that's where I think we are, is do we want it or not?
Well,
Yes or no?
Yeah.
There we go.
Going back to Lee,
Yes.
what Lee said, going back to what you said, if it's voted yes, and you guys know that from talks or whatever, that the majority of people are really concerned with the clay, I think that's one of the major things. Couldn't that be one of the designs that you change? Even if we vote for the, original plan, I mean, can that be one of the things that's changed afterwards, or?
Well, what I would probably recommend is, once we get, let's assume we get a yes vote.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the committee and we say, okay, now can we give our membership a choice? After, to some point, do we get the choice between, because that's a major change in this,
It is.
in my opinion. So it probably needs to be voted on, but you can't muddle the initial vote, is what my response to that is. So we gotta figure out how we would manage it. And you're asking me how we would do it, Lee, I cannot make that I can't make a commitment to you, because I think we all have to decide together how we can get to that point.
Can you explain to me, Marty, how the moving the clay in front makes it a better solution than keeping it in the back?
In my mind, and in talking to Jim Hager, it's because the people our members are going to be doing what they've always done. They go to the clay, they pick it up, they either put it on a cart, they do it. They touch it totally, and nobody else touches it, unless they come to you and say, Will, would you lift this for me, Lee? Or would you lift this for me, because they can't. The activity of stooping over and turning around, if they determine as a monitor that they're going to do that and then putting across that counter, I think that's what is an issue.
Yes, we saw that that came up in the questions. You're right, it was a big concern. It's certainly something we gave a lot of thought to in the design of the thing. We were concerned about the weight on each of the carts. When reason we were concerned about how people would move things if we didn't have a cart. And I won't go into all the criteria, but there was quite a bit of thought on that. What I think has happened here is that there's been an assumption made, and it's wrong, it needs to be clarified right now, about what the monitor's duties are. There was never, I think when people looked at the design, they saw the clay storage in the back of the monitor station. It was pretty natural to make an assumption that, oh, the monitor's gonna have to move the clay. But that was never anything we presented or thought, that's not part of the proposal. The monitor doesn't have to move the clay any more than they do now. The same three options exist for a member buying clay. Number one, they either buy the clay and they take it back to their workspace, they carry it, they go through that process themselves because they can. Second option, because maybe of health reasons they can't pick up the clay, they can ask the person nearest to them, who is the monitor normally, if the monitor will help. The monitor has a choice to say yes or no. If they have health problems, they can say no. That leaves us with the third option, and that is that the person buying the clay asks somebody else in the club to give them a hand. Those three options don't change whether the clay is in back or in front. So moving the clay in front does not help that monitor, does not improve the monitor.
But you would still have to have a member come behind the monitor station to pick up the clay.
And that was taken into
Okay.
account, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but look at the situation right now, and let's go through it. We've got clay against the wall. Right now, if you want to buy clay, you can walk in, open up the box, take your clay out, go through all the other things, strip in the box and that, and carry it to your workspace. If you aren't unable to do that, you can ask the monitor, usually the nearest person, to give you a hand. If they can't, then you can ask, find somebody in the club to do that. Moving the clay, as far as we're concerned, is not a club responsibility. It's not our responsibility to move the clay for an individual member. That's their responsibility. But I've been asked both as a monitor to help, and I did help. I've also been asked once just walking through why somebody was having trouble, and I helped. So I know from my own personal experience, those options are used. Moving it to the front does not change that. And what it does do is create new problems, and I just want to say a few of these other things, because this is a big issue, and it affects a number of other issues, such as aesthetics. You want a monitor station that instead of being maybe the center of the focal point of the club, something that has a series of half-open boxes in front, stacks on parts of the different sizes. It means that when clay is moved out, it's moved out in the main traffic flow pattern of the club, right in the middle. Whereas if it's back in the monitor station, that doesn't happen. So that's a little safer situation back there. I could go on with a number of other things. I won't, because we tried to address those in our answers. And I listed 5 things there in my answer to that problem, or that suggestion for reasons why I don't think we should do it. But I'd like to move off that. So anyway, I think that needs to be put to rest. That's a wrong assumption. It does not make sense.
Well, in fairness to Lee, in fairness to members that have brought this up, it is a concern of theirs. Whether we agree with them or disagree, we have to know that it is a concern of theirs. And I will say, one of the issues you have here is this club, and it really comes out of the rec centers, requires that people monitor.
Yeah.
And if they don't read all the lays how to do it, which happens every day here, somebody will do it differently than what we suggest or tell them to do. But I don't think that relieves us of the culpability if there's an injury. So I don't think we can say it just doesn't exist. I think, now, we're gonna hear all these people talk, and I won't say anymore.
Yeah, that doesn't wash.
Lee, I think the assumption that the monitor is gonna move the clay comes from the fact that all monitors are required to, when somebody purchases stickers, they're required to get them. We don't allow people to go in and pick out their own stickers. When they buy a tool, we don't allow them to go through the drawers and pick out their tools. They sell the things and get them for them, and that most likely is where the assumption comes from the concerned members. You know, it wasn't an issue anybody really brought up until they thought, I'm not moving this. So, you know, it's a legitimate assumption on the basis of how we run our monitor station. Part of your job is to sell and get purchase to the person.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean we can't change a little bit.
But that has nothing to do with health issues. It doesn't meet the concern people are expressing is for health reasons. We can't take clay back and move it up in front.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. I'm just saying, I think this may be where the members got the assumption they were going to have to move it.
Oh, yeah, it could.
I mean, it has nothing to do with health on that issue. It's just they assume so because they have to get everything else for the members when they purchase them.
But it's not a good reason to move the clay out in front. It doesn't say the clay where.
That's not why it was suggested at all. You know, I'm just saying the assumption you came up or thought of was maybe because of that.
I think there's
I'm gonna
one last
stop
issue.
waiting for just a minute. Let me go back, because we got people that wanna make a comment on this, and we need to hear everybody.
Sure.
Let's start with Joe.
I would say what we just heard here for the last few minutes is a discussion that happens after the vote. And basically, you're simply gonna have to tell the membership, here's the footprint. We're voting on this size monitor station. This, you know, plays in front or back, is still to debate. If the membership says, we agree to this size, if they come back with a no vote, everything
Yeah,
the
that's a
committee
good
did,
point.
it's gone.
Yeah, that's,
So-
we understand that.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, you guys have moved ahead a step or two.
Treading water, we don't
It's like,
need to.
you get the vote first, and then you decide where you go from there.
Wait a minute, okay. So,
Yeah.
Marley, you've been wanting to speak.
I have a question, if you're saying move clay to the front, it means it's all open?
Yes.
Okay, one of the reasons that we got started with all of this stuff was clay walking away. And-
Yeah.
Okay, if you put it up in the front, you've lost your reason for trying to make that an issue, you're gonna make it safe.
Well, I would counter that with, if, just by the visibility of the person sitting right there behind it, that negates that, but okay, go ahead.
Yesterday, no,
Can't hear you.
2 or 3 days ago, I went to the clay, I opened 2 boxes, I got 4 bags of clay, and I walked away.
And it's behind the
Monitor
counter,
was right there.
basically.
So that's a concern, yes, about having the clay moved to the front. The monitor is maybe talking to somebody coming in the door. I mean, in theory, somebody could do that. I mean, hopefully it wouldn't happen, but it isn't.
Did you say, was this for education?
Yes, it was for education.
Did you
but-
say that?
No, I wasn't even talking.
Did you go over and write down 4
Of
bags?
course I did, yeah.
Well,
After the fact.
After the fact,
Yeah.
I walked all the way back in here, the monitor didn't talk to me, didn't see me, didn't. And I was like, it took time to open up 2 boxes, and I was like, whoa. So it was kind of a little test that this could happen, if the monitor was distracted talking to someone or something.
So that very same thing could happen. I'm not promoting one way or the other, but that very same situation could happen if they sent them in through the new
Well, they
monitor
would
station
know they would
together.
know
Yeah.
sent in,
But not necessarily,
See that
because then they
person.
get busy with someone and, you know, they do the best they can, and those are the problems we deal with every day, unfortunately.
But if somebody's entering a blocked off, a particular area that's blocked off, you're gonna see that one person
Most
coming
likely,
in.
yeah.
But if everybody is walking by and the clay's sitting out, that's a different ballgame.
Kathleen, did you have something to add before you?
Well, I was going
Okay. No, that's fine. If you gotta go, you gotta go. You're on stage, do a little dance.
I just wanted to say, Lee, there wasn't an assumption about this when I was on the board and this was first started.
Okay.
The whole thing about it was that no one would have access behind that monitor station. And that's why it was so enclosed, that's why it had the flip down, that's why they were gonna put a buzzer on it. So no member would go behind there, only the monitor. So that's the way it started. So it wasn't an assumption, and I'll say, I just have to be somewhere at 12. So it wasn't an assumption to start with. It was to control everything at that point. Like I said, they even thought about a buzzer. If that wouldn't have been the issue, they would have left it open, you know, an open area to come in and out for people to get clay. But that was a big issue, was that nobody goes behind the monitor station. Because right now, it's open, people come in and out, they go and get whatever they want from behind there. And that, one of the main concerns was to stop that. So when you say assumption, that's not really a true statement, because it started out to limit everyone, and that was advertised to the membership.
When you say that, what proposal?
That no member would be going behind, no one other than the monitor would be able to go behind the monitor station and have access to anything.
But
I'm just saying that this is how it was proposed to start with. So when you say assumption, they didn't assume. Now, things change,
Yeah,
and I understand that.
it evolved.
But it evolved, and this is where it started. And that's where, when people said, we're gonna have to lift the clay up and all that, that was the original plan. The clay was gonna be behind the monitor station.
Right.
The monitor was gonna pick that clay up, the monitor was gonna put it up above, give it to them, so that no member had access to any clay. So they couldn't come in and pay for one and pick up two when the monitor's busy and walk away. The monitor would pick the clay up and put it on the counter. So this is where that came about, because that was the original plan.
Okay, but there were problems with that as we heard.
Absolutely, but it wasn't an
So that's why-
assumption.
But some
They
people are
didn't,
still
but I'm just saying that
Okay,
and I was on it and I voted for it. We promoted that. We promoted that as a board. So because it evolved, that's great, because then you look at the fallacy of doing it that way. But originally, that was a big selling point.
And because it had problems under scrutiny, that's why it was
Absolutely.
evolved to what we have. It's still, people still don't go back there without the monitor's approval.
I'm just saying,
That's the next step.
I understand that, but what I mean is that's where this whole, the root of this whole monitor picking up and putting in, because that was what was advertised. And that's why people have so many concerns about bad backs. If you're monitoring, and some of these women, I mean, it turned into a huge concern, and but this is where it started.
Okay.
On that. My other thing that I wanna say before I have to leave is that I think if you do not tell the members that there's an option that's $10,000 less, you're gonna have some real upset members if they don't, like when you said about Margie and this other plan. But I understand, but it needs an up or down
Let me
vote.
make a point about that, Kathleen. That $10,000 in my mind is there whether that $10,000 savings is
Yeah,
in my mind.
yeah.
Is there whether we go with what's proposed or what has been presented, because it's the same linear footage on the countertop, and the countertop is what's making the huge
So when we
difference.
vote on that plan, when it's voted on that plan, there's flexibility on that plan. If it's voted yes,
Yes.
there is
There-
flexibility
yeah, absolutely.
on that plan. Well, that's good, because otherwise, if they voted on that with the Corian or whatever, and then they found out later, oh, if we went with Formica, we could save 10,000, I'll tell you, there'd be a lot of members would not be
We're going
happy.
on plan, not materials.
That's
The
why-
plan.
And that needs to be
Space.
clarified, I think, because
Well, there's nothing in that
Yeah.
states what type of materials
No.
at this point.
Yeah,
Is there,
actually,
Lee?
yeah, there is.
Oh,
yeah,
We
it's
had-
pretty
This
detailed.
But no, this is where that's why I presented this as, I'm trying to make sure it's preliminary.
Yeah.
Not everything has been down, it allows for, it requires in fact, final decision making by somebody. So
That needs to be, I think in my opinion, that needs to be made clear. And I think that would be better for members, to understand that, because, you know, the whole other thing, but I wanted just to clear up about the handing the clay over and all of that, that was,
That
yeah.
may be where that came from.
yeah,
as
that's
well.
where it came from.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta go.
But
Thank you, Kathleen.
I don't wanna.
Now let's go back to Phil, or Lee, because he had something else he wanted to add, and then Norma, you're next, I'm sorry.
I'll make this brief. I know this isn't maybe the place to resolve these issues, but I think as far as Joe's comment goes, and Joe, I appreciate that. I think that it makes sense to consider two options. If they both received the same scrutiny, and by that I mean that the committees had a chance to review them, that they've gone through a question and answer period, that way they can both, the membership knows that they both meet the same requirements. One problem with moving the clay in front, one of many as far as I'm concerned, is that we have 19 feet 4 inches of clay storage right now on the back walls. Up in the front, we only have 14 feet. And where is the remaining part of that clay going to go? That's not a small issue. That's a deal breaker, or it could be, unless we come up with some other approach. And that's just one item.
So are you not wanting us to go with the original proposal? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Okay.
no,
No,
I don't.
what I'm saying, what I'm
Okay.
pointing out is that if there's another proposal being presented to the
Which we
membership,
aren't gonna do, right?
well, that's where.
It's a yes
that's
or a
up to
no
the
vote.
board. Margie just asked for how to proceed,
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I'm
so I'm
lost.
trying to
And I-
respond to that.
Actually, it only cuts out one trolley.
Yeah.
When you go from the back to the front, is
So
what,
not unless you, how does that, from 14 feet to 19 foot 4?
well, they're 24 inches wide, and and the way he worked it out, we just figured it was one trolley. Now, I'll look at that again, Lee,
Yeah,
I might
that's-
be wrong.
That's probably, the dimensions would justify that.
Wider depth.
No,
We're talking about width. Yeah,
linear
the
length.
length part of it, yeah. So, I mean, that's just one issue. Also, when Barbara Sloan, Debbie Winston, myself met with the two of you, Barbara and Margie, last month, we gave you a list that had 19 items on it. There were criteria that the committee had been looking at in order to come up with its proposed design. Now, unless somebody has sat down, if they're coming up with an option and have answers and reviewed those 19 items, and make sure that they're equals, or that they can at least explain where the differences are. I don't think that putting that out to the membership is any good at all, because it's not an issue of footprint there, it's an issue of how the problem is solved. Here's a suggestion, and about maybe one way to consider proceeding. That would be yay or nay on the proposal, realize, making sure it's presented as a preliminary plan that has some flexibility in it. And you're going to, I lost my train of thought. How's that?
Welcome to our world.
Crucial issue, I blew it.
We're talking about the list.
Yeah, well, talking about, yeah, it goes yay or nay, and then, then moving into the next, here it is. I found it. And that is rewriting the program, the problem that this solution tried to solve. Because we have less clay we're storing, or we have different arrangement of monitors, then we shouldn't be using the same problem and criteria, defining the same problem with the same criteria for this new version as we have for this current proposal. Does that make sense? Or did I muddle that too? I can refine that. Look at it as a solution to a problem. We took a lot of care, 19 items worth, to define a specific problem as it evolves and provide a proposal for that. If we have problems with that, and changes made, we shouldn't just be presenting another option unless it follows that same criteria. We should vote no on that, and then rewrite the criteria and have a brand new proposal presented to the membership based on that, the new criteria. Does that make sense now?
That makes sense. The only thing I will tell you is I think, I mean, what I hear from you, Lee, is that the people that have a concern about the weight, it's not a concern. And I'm not sure that's a fair assumption, but I'm like Joe. I think we're moving farther ahead today. We may go through this again next Thursday, and I hope we do, because I want everybody to have the voice. I want everybody to have the say, and then they all get the vote in their own way.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get to. So, you know, all due respect, I think there's some people out there, and it's not just a few people. I mean, this is not, and I'm gonna say it's 100 people? No, it's not 100 people, but we have a concern of what the safety issue is. And I'll be a part of that we. But we need to move forward and figure out how we go from here for the clubs, you know, for the club.
Yeah.
So they need to figure that out. And then if it requires a vote down the road to say, okay, maybe, let's assume this scenario, maybe, that this is all approved for move forward. We get to the preliminary plan, we work it out, and you say, and the committee says, this is what we want. Can we have two options, and we take it back to the club and say, do you want it this way, or do you want it that way? Would that be what you would do?
No, I think, not unless they're comparable, you're comparing apples to apples. I mean, in other words, if moving the clay in front stores the same amount of clay as moving it back, that eliminates one concern between the two options. If people look at the traffic flow going across the front of the monitor station and think that putting clay there and pulling it out, unwrapping the boxes and cutting, you know, getting all your stuff there and taking the time to do that, if they think that that's an interruption to that traffic flow, that may, as opposed to when the clay is being stored back within the monitor station. That's not a, you know, you're not comparing apples and apples, so that makes it a very complicated vote. You're having to weigh some options here that don't jive with options over there, and how do you do that? That's why I'm suggesting yea or nay, keep the first vote simple, yea or nay. We don't have an attachment to that as a committee. If the club doesn't like it, fine, you know. We'll have reasons for it, but then move on to, let's rewrite the criteria, which is, that will be used for the new design, because that's where you have to start.
Norma, I think that's something to say.
I'll shut up.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Lee.
No. I just wanna say is I'm one of those people that as a monitor, no one ever asks me to do flag, because they know I can't do flag. I mean, I can't pick up flag. I would get Lee or I'll get Joe, I've read everybody probably in here one time or another. So going behind, Janet, yes, going behind, front, I mean, I prefer behind, I think it looks nicer. Aesthetically, I just think it looks nicer. But I'm telling everybody who says, well, I'm not lift flag. No, you're not. If you've never lifted it, since my 5th surgery on my uppers, I can't lift more than 20 pounds. It's that simple. And no one in 6 years has ever refused me. Someone would say, nope, my back is fine, for the next person, not you. I go to live, you know. But, so I just want to let it know that, you know, for 6 years, I have never had a monitor, number one, ever lift my clay for me. So I don't care where you put the clay. Somebody's gonna have to lift it for me. And I just wanted to point that out, and I know a lot of other people say, someone always lifts my clay for me. I said, they will continue to lift your clay. Stop, they're muddling the waters. They're muddling the waters with problems that shouldn't exist. If you haven't picked it up now, you're not gonna pick it up later, so.
They were asking questions.
Yeah,
and wanted
yeah.
an answer.
But I
That's
had a
as
few out
simple
there
as
that
that.
say, I won't be a monitor anymore if I have to lift clay clay. I said, no, that's not true, and you will monitor. You just don't have to lift the clay. I just thought,
Not
you
if
know,
I have to
that's
lift the
just
clay.
something, I mean, that's muddling the waters, it's just, you know.
Betty?
I must say, the club members need to have other options. Why does the clay have to be here? Why can't we have the clay behind a locked door if need be, where it used to be, in the back room? The monitor could go back, unlock it, let the person go in, get their clay, lock it back up. Why do we have to have a 30-foot counter?
You do know
But
that
Betty,
4 or
that
5
is the
years
option,
ago.
that is an option.
No, it's not an option.
No,
No, no.
Wait.
Well, not according to Lee,
voting-
we either have the clay up front or we have it
No.
behind.
We're
Wait,
voting
wait.
on this particular thing. It's not, we're not saying you have a choice of this or this or this or this. Here's the choice presented to you. This is the design the committee has come up with, the proposal. Do you agree yes? Do you agree no?
And the proposal is the long counter with the clay
The
behind.
proposal is
that
as
correct?
it is.
That's
Exactly.
Round counter, period.
One counter only.
Is
So-
that,
No, it's what you see out here on the board,
that's
the
the
taped
proposal.
area,
Changing the door and everything.
That's the
Well, that's not
proposal.
really a change in the door. The door, it's changing the entrance that we're
Yeah,
currently
yeah.
using. We're not moving the door.
But you do
Yeah.
realize, excuse me, just for interrupting, when you and I, Bart, we were on the board with Lucy, 5, 6,
2017.
okay, thank you, whatever year it was, that was our proposal, we got voted down.
No, that's
We
not
got it.
true. We were going to do it and we didn't execute it till we got done off the board before it got done.
You sure?
Yes,
When I look at my notes, they still have it.
Well,
Go ahead.
that's what I read back in the.
And we were voted down on lockers. and-
It does show, but we've been working on this problem for a long time.
Oh, yeah, long time.
And part of it is a scenario of a it's a scenario that we worked through our minds that said if we had one box of clay missing every month over a 12-month period of time at the old price, it was $288 a year. You multiply that times 10 years and you're close to $3,000.
Good deal.
And that was a calculation somebody did on another board that we don't have any proof of. We have absolutely no proof of. And I did go back, I personally went back and looked at the 2019 receipts, because we had the box here, we had the receipts, we had the purchases, we had the beginning inventory, the ending inventory, and we had how many new hand building students we had, because part of our problem is, I think, moving the hand building clay classes into the proper category to take them off the inventory properly, okay? We also have some members that they buy the inventory and they leave it there, so you can't from month to month get the inventory correct. It's very difficult to get our inventory. If somebody sees a bag of clay they deem that is too dry, they pitch it, we don't write it down. We have a bit of it, but we have over 300 members on a regular basis. And I'm never gonna tell you it's gonna balance to the T. I worked on that balance for a while, and I gave it up because it was such a moving thing. And at that
And you took
time,
inventory every Monday, didn't you? or something?
yes, I did. And at that time, we had a number of different clays that were different priced. We have more of them the same price now, which makes that a whole lot easier. But you have to, when people, Shar spoke earlier of what people write down on that sheet. It's always been a challenge. So, I mean, I think this is an ongoing problem that we've had for a long time. I think we've had a good discussion today. I think we're not gonna solve the problem here, but I think we have to have this conversation again next Thursday, as painful as it is. And then we move forward and we take a vote. And I'm recommending that it's an up-down vote on this proposal as it is. And, that's where I'm at on it. And the members have to decide whether they want to go with the current. Pardon me?
I say go in debt. We're not in debt because we have
Well,
money, and you
it's-
might get some of it from the rec center, right?
Well, I will tell you this, I did find out also on Tuesday when I met with James Riley and Carl Wilhelm, that, you know, the rec center is on a July 1 to June 30th rotation, fiscal year. We have missed the fiscal year 21, the last half of 21 and the first half of 22. That opportunity's gone. We have to go back and reapply, and it does start in the early, it actually starts in January, is what Mr. Wilhelm told me, for the 21, 22 last half and the front of 23. So, and that in itself causes a problem, because every month we don't, or every period of time that we don't execute, pull the plug, like on the roller, the prices are going up, and they're suggesting at least 3%. And when I looked at the bids that they gave me in comparison to what the original estimate was, you can see they've increased the price of delivery. I mean, there are some major differences from what we received last summer, and we all know that. If we were out buying a house today, we would really recognize that, or building a house, I should say. But, long story short, I've been told a number of times by different staff people at different levels that it's very unlikely that this project fits into the properties committee criteria, in that if we were adding on to the building, if we were closing in the patio, that is deemed, well, that's a good thing for the rec center, because if another club moved in here, that would be additional space for them. This station here is probably not likely, because it's more of an internal thing. We want it the way it is, or we want it the way it's developed, and we're moving forward, but it doesn't enhance the facility, is the best way I can use, okay? So we can, in my mind, we can decide one of two things. We can decide to go for the $25,000, go to the properties and try to get it committed. Because $25,000 is a lot of money. Or we could say, let's look at the surface top, go $10,000 less, maybe go ahead and do it, and we could get that built this summer if we paid it out by ourselves. So, I mean, that's more than half of 22.5, but my point is, it's not that far different from if we went to the properties and went through all the process. I don't know. It is a quandary that we have. Unfortunately, the committee has not seen these plans. We weren't able to set up a meeting, so Lee went as today, we'll see those for the first time. So I just, as a president, felt that it is very important that this organization know there is another drawing, there is another bid, but it's not for this vote, as I see it. It's let's vote on what we got, decide whether we move forward, we reconstruct, we do whatever we do, but we do it because the membership wants to do it. Anything else? I mean, I'm sorry.
One thing I think we need to consider is for our own money protection type thing is, apparently lumber and building things have just skyrocketed in the last month or so. Somebody had mentioned they bought a beam recently, and it was $1.99 per board. And they went to get another one 2 days ago, and it was almost $10 a board. That's how fast it is. So when we do a vote, do we need to, this is just my question, do we need to increase the amount, or once, I don't know. That's something to consider, I guess.
Well, based on what I'm seeing, I would say we need to make it a max of 25,000.
Yeah. Okay.
In my opinion, does that make sense? I mean, it makes sense to me, because if we go with the 22.5, and I know already, if we build it and went through the properties and everything, it's not gonna get built for 22.5. I think it's gonna be at least 25,000. And initially, I thought, well, with the 22.5, 25 gets us that cushion. Quite frankly, 25 doesn't give us cushion now. But I don't want to overstate this and have, you know, then it's a catch-22. we'll have to work on the wording. But I want to do that after our meeting Thursday, the 8th. And in the meantime, I'll be thinking about it. And I hope you all think about it too, and I will appreciate any input that you give me on it. Is there anything else on that? Because I really like to kind of.
Pot party location.
Yeah, that's my next thing. We have and again, I think this is gonna be back for next Thursday, because I think this is important that we decide where the pot party for 2022 should be held. Now, the options are we have it here like we always have, or we move to R.H. Johnson. That decision to move to R.H. Johnson for 2021 had been made based on the surveys, the questions, and everything we put out. And I have the results on that. At that time, we had 91 total responses for the club. 60 said yes, they wanted to move to R.H. Johnson, 14 said no, and 12 were undecided. But we had, that's a third of our membership at that time. I'm a little uncomfortable with just assuming that we're still in that mode after being out of here for a year and after doing a lot of different things. So I wanted to bring it up to you. I will have to make a decision, I believe, on May 1st, what I file with the rec center for that activity, whether we're asking for the rec center on R.H. Johnson or whether we're asking for this facility, because they literally close this facility down that day for us. Yoga doesn't get to be, nobody else gets to be here that day. So, anybody have any comments on that?
Margie, I believe this year it was going to be held in the social hall.
Right, at the R.H. Johnson.
At R.H. Johnson.
Yeah, I said rec center, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, that's a little different than the rec center because of where we have our craft fairs.
And see, the other thing I was leery of when I put this on here, because it was before was where we're gonna be on constrictions on COVID.
Yeah.
And we don't know that. We still don't know that. So that's why I bring it up. I don't wanna make that decision by myself. I want the membership to make that decision. Joe, yes, sir.
I guess in that process of reserving them, you have a grace period of canceling.
Yeah, we can cancel, but to get what.
Can you put in for 2 places at once?
Well, I wondered whether I could, and I am doubtful.
Good idea.
But, and I'm willing to try that.
Okay.
I don't think that works if I
We can
Try.
anything's worth a try, right?
You'd be surprised how much you can see by that.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Well, I'll try that. All I can do is throw me out. And the other thing, I'll be asking the social committee to look at the calendar for 2022 to say, where would you like to have events in 2022? Skip that. One last thing, before, we'll go to board member comments. Does anybody else have anything on that? Board member comments, I did get approached.
Are we skipping above that?
Oh, those are just, those goals, they stay the same until we
Okay, so
solve
we
them.
don't, okay.
No, they're on the sheet, I can read them, but we
No,
skip
no,
them
no.
because we don't have any changes. The Copper Club has approached me and they want to buy a roll of our paper that we buy by the pallet.
Which one's Joe?
They want to buy a roll of our newsprint that we buy by the pallet. We pay $150 for the pallet. I think, as near as I can tell, we get someplace between 20 and 25 rolls on that pallet. We have a lot right now. They want to buy a roll. I think it costs $5 to $10 for the rolls.
Go.
Is there any problem with selling that to them? Does anybody have a problem with that?
No,
Go.
I know they're out, they're completely out.
Yeah, and do we need to make a vote on that?
And I told, and I did inform them where they could get it.
Yeah, but they're probably like us, they don't want the whole pallet. Because they only sell it by the pallet. It's from a news plant someplace where at the end of the roll, they don't roll any more newspapers on it, and then they sell them. But it's like a huge roll of toilet paper, except it's very heavy and about this tall. So,
We used to get it from that news.
do I have a motion?
Yeah, that's what I was
Could
saying.
I have a motion?
That we sell it.
Okay, anybody else?
I second.
You wanna sell it for 10?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, I think that's appropriate in my mind. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Or nay? Okay, we'll sell that to them, they'll make them happy. Remind you, the Mud Times goes out on Monday, so if you have anything for Shauna, if you get it to her by Saturday night, she loves you. And any other comments from the room? Yes?
I just have a question, it's like, who does our, like, getting the cards together now?
What cards?
Like, is somebody, I found one of our old members is having back surgery next week.
Pam Lake does that.
Who does?
Pam Lake does
Okay.
that, and she buys stamps and puts them up there in the cupboard, so we've
Okay.
had a lot of opportunities to use that stuff
Okay.
this year.
When you talk to her,
Yeah.
And did you have anything else? Anybody else have any comments? Anybody else? No. Welcome, Janet. Thank you for volunteering. We appreciate it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move. No.
Second. Third, fourth, done. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for your time. I really appreciate your input. I hope we got something on that. I don't know. We might have to work on this sound system.